It's a very special day. Again, as Keshavaji was saying, 5 years ago, Swamiji left the body, and I was just fresh in Gurgaon then. Just arrived, and a few weeks, and it was a Sunday Satsang, in fact. It was a Sunday. And while the Sunday Satsang was going on, we got the news, and all of a sudden everything changed for that moment. One way we look at it is Swamiji left the body, we always say, and then in that sense, like he became a free spirit, he became omnipresent. And which in that sense, today is a very special day. We of course grieve a little, we always remember him because we'll miss him it would have been nice to have him here in the body. But we also rejoice in his freedom because he always wanted that as well. What happened in that after that though is like, see, it is all good and said, but at the end of it now, Swamiji, who was very easily accessible, all of a sudden became inaccessible in that sense, no? So all of, especially those who were the leader of Ananda, had a bigger responsibility to understand like what he wanted. So Jayaji, Nayaswami Jayaji gave a satsang later on, and in fact many of them gave a satsang, and then they wanted to share their experience, how they are coping up, what is their way. And Jayaji, in a part joking, part serious way, said, no, it was very easy when Swamiji was around. You can just point finger at him. It's like, okay, there's big problems, go talk to Swami, or Swamiji will take care of it. Now all of a sudden he felt that, well, he's not there, so he felt like it's more responsibility. Ashaji, again, she was also spent quite some time with Swami Kriyananda ji when he was young, or early times, and she was very fond of him. So this period were very challenging for each one of them. So she also gave a little sermon later on where she talks about, it's too loud. She also gave a sermon where she talked about, she took a seclusion and a break, and then when she came back, she's like, okay, I sort of understood. She asked in that time, like, Swami, tell me, how do I reconcile? How do I understand when you're omnipresent and I see you as a body? And some guidance she also got from himself. Now, I was, as they say, very new at that time, the new part of the lot. So I didn't know what exactly all these things meant, but I thought I also should make an attempt. I saw people taking break, taking a seclusion and going on. So I couldn't go and then visit Swamiji or see his body in Italy where most of the people went, but then I made an effort to go to the US where they kept his body in a casket. It was closed, so you couldn't see the body, but it was there, kept in his home at Crystal Hermitage. So I was there for a couple of weeks, so I would go every morning. I didn't have any other agenda, neither I have any work, so I was on a sort of a break. A very nice place it is. Again, another advertisement for Ananda Village, if you have not been there. And that time, so again, many people have already been to Assisi, so it was very quiet time. So every morning I would just wake up, go walk to Crystal Hermitage, long walk, but I had all the time. And then I sit there, I try and meditate for as long as I can. 2-3 hours I would just be there by myself and with his body. And this just happened day after day. Very nice. Nothing spectacular happened in that time, if you're waiting for that. But it was a very special time for me. I mean, I made an attempt to make any connection with Swamiji in whatever way I could. And I was grateful because he gave me an opportunity to be there very easily, to go to the States and then spend that time with him. And then I returned and our jobs and then duties at the Sangha started. Few weeks or probably months later, I was traveling to Dehradun. And while I was that was a private trip, I was going to Ma's ashram, so I was in very nice high spirit also. So just looking outside the window, and all of a sudden somebody called me, Amit. And I was startled. Before Swamiji left for India, like this is before he left the body, he was in Pune. And then one of the final projects Swamiji did was he rewrote the lessons in self-realization. He wasn't quite happy with how they came up earlier when Master wrote, so he thought he has to rewrite them. So he rewrote them, and then he wanted to give them out in a digital format. So he asked Shurjo and Narayani, who were sort of taking care of, and they were always with him at that time, like, who can help? I want to get this out like in a few days. And then they said, like, Swami, this is a technical project. We have one guy who can do it probably. So then they proposed my name, and then they asked me, as I was very happy. So I said, like, Swami will tell you personally. So then Swami came, and I went to meet him. This was just at the where we normally have lunch time. And so there, he called my name, Amit, and then very politely asked me, can you help me with this project? And it's like, he always did that, but I don't want to talk about that today. And of course, I was overjoyed, and I said yes. And then with Essay and some other friends of people, we finished that project. But I remembered that sound. I have a good ear in terms of music, and Swamiji himself is a musician. Whenever he speaks also, he's like a singing. I remember his voice when he called my name. And this time, when I was in that train, Shatabdi, going to Dehradun, it was the same. And I was not looking at who was speaking, and I was startled. It's like, how can it be? And I looked, and it was, of course, the ticket checker. And he was looking at me and smiling. Of course, I couldn't do more than that, but then we did whatever the formality, but it stuck with me. I was like, what just happened? I do not want to make it sound like this is a big deal or anything. But I did try to observe later on some other ticket checkers who calls me by name and then looks at me and smiles. Not many. You see, I didn't find any. So what was that? Now, do I say that it is like some divine experience? I don't know. But even when I want to remember of Swami Kriyananda and think like, what is it, that special time, my personal connection. Even sometimes, even before, there are times when he blessed many of us, not only me at the point between the eyebrows, but that call, that sound, the call of Amit comes more strongly. And I thought I will share with you all in that sense. Swami always said, and then Master always said that those who think me near, I will be near. Yesterday we were trying to do the same thing here in a retreat format. It's like we want to invite their presence. I will stop with this one last thing that Swami Dhyanaji shared with us. Just before he left the body, they were asking him questions. That Swamiji, when you will leave the body, will you be as easily available as we are now? And Swamiji to that answered, I sincerely hope so. And she stopped there, and then she contemplated, or he stopped there, and she started contemplating what he actually meant. Is it that like, well, I am really done? Why don't you guys continue now and give me a break? No, it was not only that. And that brings us back to what Master is saying. Those who think me near, I will be near. It is our choice, it's our responsibility how much we want them participate in our lives. How much is the guidance that we can draw from these masters. Only when we choose, they have the capacity to work through us. As they say that the light is always shining. All our job is to sort of open the curtains, and then it will come and shine inside. Joy to you.
Thank you, Amit. Another of the last projects that Swamiji did during his life was the movie Finding Happiness. And Narayani, in her book, My Heart Remembers, tells a little of that story. She says one of the movie scripts Swami worked on in Los Angeles was the story of Ananda. In the last week of his life, in the last week of Swamiji's life, Shivani, the executive producer, brought him the finished movie, Finding Happiness. He invited a small group of friends to watch it with him at his house. People who had had near-death experiences often talk about a life review. Your whole life passes before you, and you see the successes and failures and all the lessons still to be learned. Watching that movie with Swami was like watching his life review. It captured in 90 minutes the fruit of Swami's 60 years of discipleship. When finding happiness ended, there were tears in every eye. No one could speak. Many of those present had walked with Swamiji every step of the way and knew all the sacrifices he had made to manifest Ananda. Finally, wiping the tears from his eyes, Swamiji broke the silence. I see my Guru's dream fulfilled. I have accomplished all that I came to do. Master is very pleased. That night, Swamiji's heart was overflowing with joy. Whatever lingering doubt he might have had about pleasing his Guru, finding happiness took it away. He had emptied himself out completely in service to Master. He told me, I am so eager now to go to the astral world. Then he paused for a few seconds. Better still, to achieve final liberation, moksha. His words did not feel like a wish. They were a prophecy. Yoganandaji, during his life, accomplished many incredible things, but many other things, he just planted the seed. He started. He didn't finish. Well, when he was in America in the 1920s, one of the first things he tried to start was a spiritual school for children. Another was a yoga university. And then at Encinitas, a spiritual community, a resident community for householders. None of these ever continued. They didn't get off the ground. It's like people were not yet quite ready to manifest that during his lifetime. Toward the end of Yogananda's life, at a wealthy home in Beverly Hills, he was speaking at a garden party for his supporters and members, and he spoke very strongly about starting rural, self-sustaining communities. He called them World Brotherhood Colonies. He shouted, he said, youths, many youth, thousands of youths must go north, south, east, west to start these colonies. And of the 800 people there, how many people answered his call? Only one that we know of, Swami Kriyananda, and founded, after a few years, the Ananda colonies with just a handful of friends. When I joined Swamiji and joined the Sangha in 1972, the whole Sangha consisted of fewer people than there are here in this room. And yet, it doesn't take many. Christ had just a few disciples. Buddha had just a few disciples. Gandhi had just a handful of people who were really committed to him. That's all it takes to change the world. The effect of those small groups of people we still feel today. Master told Swamiji that his work would be one of writing and lecturing. And Swamiji said, but haven't you already written everything that's needed? And he said, Master seemed a little shocked. He said, oh no, much more is needed. This is only the beginning. And so Swamiji wrote over 150 books, gave thousands of discourses. You might say he was a very loyal disciple. And with many of his books, he chose a topic that people were already interested in. They already wanted to know more about. And with that topic, he showed people how to spiritualize that aspect of their lives. And he said that with each of these he felt that he never really exhausted a topic, that there was much more that could be said. And we have here a course of study of many months in meditation leading up to the Kriya Yoga initiation. Swamiji said that such a course of study can be created for each one of his books, for each one of these topics, be it education, the arts, marriage, all of the things that we have to deal with every day anyways. Some of us were listening last Sunday as Jyotish and Devi were sharing the dream of an institute that would do exactly that, create courses of study for each one of these topics and transform our lives in every way and transform society as a result. And as Swamiji said, this was what he did was just the beginning. He planted seeds for later generations to develop. He wrote hundreds of pieces of music, and then later a professional musician started arranging that music for orchestra. So many things are possible. And we each have a part to play in changing our own lives and in changing the world around us. And the way we grow, of course, is through practicing these teachings. But just as important is sharing these teachings, making them real in every aspect of life. And when we serve, we are the ones who are helped most. Not so much the people that ostensibly we are serving. And maybe we can't orchestrate a piece of music, maybe we can't write a book, but there's so many ways that we can serve according to our own abilities, according to our own availability. We could be singing in the choir. We could be operating the video camera. We could be greeting new people when they come. We could be donating money every month to feel that we are giving and serving of ourselves. And in this way, we get the blessings of God and of Guru. And in this sense, it's a blessing that Yogananda Ji and Swamiji did not finish their missions, because it gives us the good karma to help them complete those missions. And as I said, more important than what may be happening outwardly in helping others is that we ourselves are blessed through that which flows through us. And that was one of the most important lessons that Swamiji's life has for us, is how we can transform ourselves through giving and loving and serving. And if we seek to do God's will, then all of the strength that we need will be given to us. And as Amit said, what Yogananda Ji said of, to those who think me near, I will be near, is also true for Swamiji. Their help and their strength is always with us. And it's for us to simply call on that when in need and in every moment. Thank you.